I am a 27-year-old woman, my brother is 20, we were born in Venezuela, but our parents are 100% Galician, Spanish, and we have lived in Spain for almost 18 years now. We moved when I was 9 and he was about 2. I took my test almost a year ago and was obsessed. I loved all the information it gave me. I persuaded my mom and my first cousin, my dad's brother's daughter, to also take it months ago. I wasn't able to convince my dad, but I finally managed to convince my brother to take it. He doesn't care about this kind of stuff much, so I promised I'd manage it for him, and when I got the results, I'd do a reveal for him, kind of like a gender reveal for babies. Well, I got the results on Tuesday and I haven't been able to tell anyone the results. I've talked with Ancestry customer support and they told me the results are right and it is the correct person, but that they're looking into it. Anyway. Basically, my brother doesn't appear in my matches. And in my brother's matches, I don't show up, and neither does my mom, and neither does my cousin from my dad's side. In his matches I only see people I've never heard of. None of my matches show up in his. His ethnicities are different too. My mom has 60% Portuguese, for example. I got 40% Portuguese. I think my dad has a bit too, and that's why I got more than 30%. My brother doesn't have any Portuguese at all. Another super weird thing, he has 44% Indigenous Americas, Colombia and Venezuela. My mom doesn't have that. I don't have that. My cousin, dad's side, doesn't have that. Another thing, my brother has 12% South Italian. I don't have any Italian and neither do my mom or cousin. I'm freaking out because it's not like my mom cheated, because then at least he'd be my half-brother and related to my mom. He can't be adopted. I was 6 when my mom was pregnant with him. I remember all of it. I remember them telling me she was pregnant and that I'd have a baby brother. I remember hospital visits. Hell, I remember when he was born. When I held him for the first time in the hospital and he was so tiny. Could they have done an egg and sperm donation thing? Does that even happen in Venezuela in 2004? I am 100% sure I am biologically my parents, so I know they aren't infertile. Or weren't when they conceived me. Could simply Ancestry have lied to me and got the wrong person? I am so confused. Has this happened to anyone before? I am scared of asking him to try another DNA company because I don't want him to ask why. I am scared of telling my parents in case I reveal some huge secret. But my mom seemed normal when she knew my brother took a test. I don't know what steps to take moving forward. Edit, I will address some comments here. He's never had bone marrow surgery. Many people have asked if my brother looks different from my parents and me. This is something I never questioned because I had no reason to, but my brother has darker skin than us. It is darker but not enough to ever think he wasn't biologically related to us. His nose certainly is different and so is his mouth. He is shorter than my dad and me, but taller than my mom. He is the shorter guy in our family, but I think he's still growing. Hair texture and color is very similar to all of us. Curly and brown hair. Though his hair is darker. Ours is much lighter. My dad is almost blonde and I have very light brown hair too. His eyes are very dark brown. My dad has green, my mom light brown, and I have hazel. When it comes to personality, he is just like my dad. Nothing stands out about his personality in terms that would make me think he isn't biologically related. He is and will always be my brother. I don't care about DNA. He doesn't show up as a match for me at all. I search his name and he doesn't appear. Neither do I show up in his matches and neither does my mom. There are no CMS shared. Someone asked how much CM I have with my mom and it's 3,481. With my paternal cousin I share 901 CM. My mom is 60% Portuguese, 33% Spanish, 5% Ireland, and 2% Wales. I am 58% Spanish, 40% Portuguese, 1% Irish, 1% France. My dad hasn't taken a test. My brother is 44% Indigenous Venezuela and Colombia, 36% Spanish, 12% South Italy, 4% Basque, 4% North of Africa. Edit 2. I would love to respond to everyone, but there are so many comments. I will address some things here. My brother did not prank me. I saw him spit in the tube and I myself put the tube into its box, and later on I personally put it in the post box. The saliva in the tube that I sent was 100% his. A few have mentioned that it is weird that we have such a big age gap and that possibly my mom stopped being as fertile by the time my brother was born. I was an accident that happened when both my parents were 19, so my mom was still pretty young when she had my brother. It is indeed possible that she wasn't fertile and used an egg donor, but if that happened, I'm sure it wasn't because of her age. As for the results not being my brother's and it being an ancestry mistake, many of you pointed out things that I hadn't thought about. Like, if I got someone else's results then that somebody would have got my brother's results. Therefore, I'd have matched with him, anyway. And I didn't, so nobody else got his results. The other thing is that if it was a random person's test it really would be a crazy coincidence that the results are of a Venezuelan and not a random European or Asian. It's too much of a coincidence that it's Venezuelan DNA. The consensus seems to be baby swapping in the hospital or informal adoption because my mom's baby died. A few have said fake pregnancy before an adoption, but I felt the baby kicks with my own hands and face, so that one isn't right. I don't know what it is. I have been mentally preparing myself all day. Tomorrow morning I will call my mom and ask her directly if they had any help conceiving him and or if he's adopted. Those two would be the better options. If it's neither, well, let's just hope it's one of those options. Thank you all for your messages. It really means a lot. You're the only people that know that this is happening, and it was a nice feeling to let it out and have so much support. Many have asked for an update, so I will try to come back here if I get answers. Thank you again, Oop. Hola. Of course I heard the baby stealing stories too, and my parents barely let me go alone, but I can't imagine my parents not being careful and keeping an eye on the baby at all times. But I don't know. I don't know if my brother was ever taken away from them after birth. It's possible, Oop. I haven't told my mother yet. I'm trying to figure out what could have happened. I really think he isn't adopted. So I'm scared that one, they used IVF or something and it's a secret they don't want to share, or two. Update 1. A few days ago I made a post here talking about how I got my brother's ancestry DNA results and found that he didn't match with me, my mom, or my paternal cousin, making it seem like he isn't biologically related to my family. As many of you, and Ancestry customer support, pointed out, it was unlikely that the test was wrong. It was much more likely that the test was right and that there was something else going on. Namely, that my brother really wasn't biologically my brother. I talked to my mom last Saturday. I'd planned to just call her on Friday, but I was really stressed out and nervous and hadn't slept at all, and needed to work. So I figured it made more sense to wait for the weekend. Plus, I wanted to talk to her face to face. I preferred this, and I think my mom would prefer this too, considering the topic I wanted to talk about. Those are all irrelevant details that I don't know why I'm explaining. I'm sorry. Soon after I got to my parents' house, I got my dad to go buy me some stuff in the supermarket, and used the time alone to ask my mom if she remembered weeks earlier when I got my brother to do the test. It had happened in their house and my brother had struggled to spit, so it was memorable. She said that of course she remembered and asked me if I finally got the results. I told her that yes, I got them, but that the results were strange. She asked me what that meant. And then I directly asked her if my dad and her had used fertility help to have my brother. I guess something in my tone and face freaked her out because she suddenly got very serious and said something like, "No. Why are you asking that?" So I told her that the results showed that he wasn't her biological son. And he wasn't related to me, or my dad's niece, or anyone that she and I had matched with on Ancestry. And that it was very weird, but DNA can't be wrong. And I asked her if he really was theirs biologically, or if they used embryo donations, or if he was adopted. Basically she was in disbelief about what I was saying, and she said the test must be wrong, and of course my brother was hers. I showed her my brother's results, the ethnicity estimates, I opened my app and showed her my matches and compared, etc. She simply didn't believe any of it. She said that it was wrong. I reminded her that she and I matched. That she and I matched with some second and third cousins that we knew. That I matched with my paternal cousin. I told her that it is not wrong. That companies lie and they suck, but it's not lying about this. Matching people with DNA is very easy and final, and they have no reason to lie. I explained how I spent so much time talking with Ancestry support trying to figure out if there was a mistake, and they assured me there wasn't one. I explained to her also how my brother's results couldn't have got mixed up with someone else's, because what were the odds of getting a Venezuelan person's results and not just some random person from the US, since that's where most clients are. At this point she was freaking out and shaking, and confused, and I 100% believe her. She is being honest. My brother was conceived naturally and she gave birth to him. When my dad came back I told him the same thing and asked the same questions. The same argument as before happened, except it was now the two of them. He said he is theirs and that the test is wrong. Anyway, my mom was angry and crying and my dad was very serious, and I finally brought up the possibility of my brother being switched on accident by nurses at the hospital. I was the first to say it out loud, but obviously everyone had been thinking it. They denied that they were given another baby. But they also didn't seem totally sure. My mom was shaking and my dad was mostly quiet. They said that he was taken to a room with a lot more newborns and always slept there. He was barely in my mom's room. My parents said they don't remember if there were any tags on him with his name or their names. They think there weren't tags on him. But there for sure were tags in the little baby's cribs in that room. But of course, if they put the wrong baby in the wrong crib, that was it. They said that basically he was born, they cut the umbilical cord, kinda wiped all the stuff off of him, put him in my mom's arms, and then quickly took him away. The next time they saw him he was much cleaner and softer, and they say he didn't have some sort of white film on him. He seemed like the same baby, but in my opinion, after seeing him maybe 10 minutes at most right after birth with the crazy amount of hormones and adrenaline on both sides, would you really be able to recognize a newborn? I don't know. Anyway, that is the update. My parents assured me he was conceived naturally and that my mom gave birth to him. I believe this is the truth. They were way too shocked and emotional for it to be a lie. We bought a bunch of new tests. Ancestry for my dad and 23andMe for my parents and my brother. Also, my dad said he would investigate how to do paternity and maternity tests with a doctor. They will tell my brother today. They'll tell him, and then I'll give him access to the account I've made for him on Ancestry so that he can freely look at his results and do what he pleases with his DNA. Well, like I said, that conversation with my parents happened on Saturday. Yesterday on Sunday I visited them again and they seemed very disturbed. Very worried. So I am concerned about them and my brother, and I really hope that whatever the results are to the other DNA tests, that nobody loses their minds. I think my parents will love my brother just the same. He is their son. But I know that if he isn't biologically theirs, it means that there is a person out there that is biologically their son. My parents will go crazy trying to find him if that's the case. And it's Venezuela. Feels impossible to find someone there. And he might not even be there considering all the migration the last years. And what if he had a bad life? A bad family? I don't know. I'm so worried about this, so I can't even imagine how my parents feel. As for my brother, I think he will take it well. He's really strong, understanding and smart, and he never cared about blood, he's always said as much. I think it will shock him and disturb him as well, but I don't think he'll go as crazy. If the results are negative, I'll make sure to be there for him if he needs me and be the best sister I can be. Anyway, I'm sorry about there not being much of an update. There's no new information. I wish there was. But not yet, I guess. Thank you for all your support in the last post. Now on to second story. Punched my wife's best friend after she falsely accused me of ASA LT, and now I'm facing SUICTA, divorce, and potential court. I've, 35 male, been with my beautiful wife, 34F, for close to 10 years. We have no kids as of now. My wife's best friend, Amy, has been friends with my wife for about 15 years, all throughout college where I originally met my wife. Me and Amy haven't ever been the best of friends, however we've been cordial for the sake of my wife. I've always found her to be obnoxious, loud and entitled. The kind that inserts herself into any and every conversation, whether that be on a night out with friends or a private conversation. For example, myself and my best friend were talking about fertility issues in his marriage during a dinner with our longtime friends. We were quiet enough so that nobody could hear us over the chatter, yet she found a way to be nosy and make a comment on how she would kill herself if she couldn't do the one thing a woman was made to do. This pissed off my best friend, Max, and his wife to the point where they excused themselves and left early to go home. Now on to the actual situation at hand. Amy's boyfriend, Khalid, had left her due to her annoying personality. I think it was more of a build-up, but what set him off was when Amy purposely did not feed their dog while he was on a work trip because he was sleeping while she was drunk and calling him to collect her. That's only the tip of the iceberg. Amy has always been weird with me. She has constantly tried to DM me on Instagram, trying to make conversation about gossip in our friend group or completely random things. I have always ignored her. My wife has always seen past her strange behavior. She refused to believe her dearest best friend would have ill intentions. Anyway, after their breakup, Amy came over to our house to see my wife. My wife was feeling ill on this day, so she took pills to help her sleep and fell asleep in a matter of an hour. I could not ask Amy to leave in the state she was in, so for my wife I suggested she could sleep in the guest bedroom. She agreed and went to bed. I was in the kitchen cleaning up after dinner and she waltzed into the kitchen with nothing but undergarments on. She acted shocked and claimed she didn't know I was still in the kitchen. I felt extremely uncomfortable and decided to call it a night. However, she started stripping and approaching me, telling me how my wife doesn't have to know and she's seen the way I've looked at her. I was completely baffled and told her she's gotten the wrong idea and to be ashamed to do this to her own best friend while I try to scurry out of the kitchen. However, she practically leapt in front of me and touched my privates. Without a second thought, I hit her. I know I could have easily pushed her, but in the moment I panicked and punched her in the face. Her eye was left bruised. She started wailing, enough that my wife woke up and stumbled in the kitchen to see her best friend, naked and bruised. She then went on about how I tried to rape her and that I'm a disgusting human being and she should divorce me. I snapped back that she approached me naked and a rejection wasn't enough for her to back off, so I punched her, hence the bruise. My wife didn't say anything. Instead, she fainted and I immediately brought her to the hospital. My wife is now okay but refuses to talk to me about what happened. On the other hand, Amy has now accused me of attempting to have sex with her in our friend group. The majority of people don't believe her, but there's a few who live by always believe a rape accusation. The other half told me I fucked up by punching her and fueling this anger. Amy has ruined my life. I'm afraid my wife will divorce me and this goes to court. I've already contemplated suicide many times. I don't know where to go from here. What do I do? Where do I go from here? Any advice is appreciated. Edit. I know this story sounds absurd and I wish it were fake, but it is not. The unnecessary details were brought in to point an overall picture of her character. I guess it is worth mentioning my wife feels like she owes her life to Amy for getting her out of an abusive household when they were teenagers. They are practically like sisters. Amy was also not drunk. Edit 2. A few things I would like to clarify to avoid confusion. Amy claims to have gone to the kitchen to get a glass of water not knowing I was still there. She then claims I took advantage of her. This incident happened at approximately 3 a.m. It is now 8 a.m. She came up with this story and posted it in our group chat right after she went back home. Majority of our friend group have to get up early for their responsibilities, hence how this misinformation has spread like wildfire. I have been getting individuals' DMs on advice and opinions since, where I've concluded the majority are on my side. Some say I shouldn't have punched her and the rest believe her. My wife has been up all night and refuses to talk to me. I have not tried to push her to talk to me. For now, she needs time to process it. I'm contemplating on texting her ex, Khalid, who left her, and try asking him if she's done anything similar to his knowledge. He may be able to make my story more believable based on a factual pattern of behavior rather than word against word. Just not sure if it's a good idea. I try to understand her really. She has known Amy longer and Amy has helped her get through pretty deep stuff in their teens. I know my wife has her reasons for reacting the way she did. But it is getting tiring trying to compete with her best friend. Update 1. I am still suffering the aftermath of what has happened. I have not slept nor ate since. For the people who proceeded to say I should have had sex with Amy or me calling me a sicko, I truly hope you find peace in your lives. And to the comments calling me an which were interestingly mostly from men, I truly hope you treat the women in your life with the same respect and equality they deserve. Now on to the update. A lot has happened in the past 9 hours. Someone made a suggestion to text Khalid and so I did. Khalid was just as distraught as me and admitted that this was in fact not the first time she has screamed rape, just like some of you had suspected. She has threatened to scream rape to use Khalid to STA in the relationship with her. He got out of it by installing cameras without her knowledge and contacting a lawyer in case she went through with her claims. This worked in my favor. He was very supportive and sympathetic. I confronted Amy with all the fallacies in her story and mentioned the existing evidence Khalid still had if she was interested in taking her claims to the court. She panicked and told me no. Apologized and said she wasn't in her right mind after the breakup. I got her to admit this in the group chat, as I am not interested in false rumors spreading about me in case someone was still unsure of the situation. She shortly left the GC and has cut off contact with everyone. In other words, has become unreachable. I explained to my wife what had happened. She had seen all the messages with her confession anyway. My wife told me she genuinely didn't know who to believe and was contemplating divorce in that moment. I was heartbroken. I told her I needed time to process everything that had happened in the past 14 hours. I will be sleeping in the guest bedroom tonight. I am happy she believes me now, but it doesn't sit well with me that it took an actual confession out of Amy for my wife to side with me. I have been with my wife for 10 years and would expect her to know me better than that. But at the same time, she didn't know Amy was capable of something like this in 15 years. My marriage has definitely taken a hit with this situation. Although I love my wife and have seen past every other time she has defended Amy, this situation is something I can't get over overnight. I thank you all for helping me navigate this situation. Edit. I am very aware and understanding of my wife's situation. She feels indebted to Amy and there's definitely power play at hand. However, my wife has laughed off the incident and dismissed the fact of how traumatizing it was for me. She still refuses to see Amy as the villain and is blaming it on the emotional heartbreak of her breakup. Update 2. So it's been a bit over 2 months since the incident occurred. Needless to say, it's been a hectic 2 months. In short, my wife's best friend, Amy, forced herself onto me. I hit her. She accused me of SA. Wife believed Amy until she was backed into a corner and confessed to the truth. Wife didn't give much importance when it came to me and proceeded to laugh it off and call it a big misunderstanding. Now for the actual update. I tried to make it work. I really did. For 2 months I tried to brush it off and dealt with wife still having frequent hangouts with Amy and telling me about them all excitedly as if her own best friend didn't just try to have sex with me. However, the last straw was a few days ago where my wife was telling me how her and Amy are planning a trip to Greece for the summer holidays and how she can't wait to finally have a break from life stresses. I simply said nothing and walked away from her. She followed me and asked me if everything was okay, and I straight up told her how I can't believe she would dismiss the fact that Amy accused me of rape when in actual fact she forced herself onto me, and how when it came to Amy, she believed her and was willing to divorce me on the spot, but when it came to me, she brushes it off and continues to have her girly hangouts with the very friend who tried to destroy our marriage. I blatantly told her she doesn't care for me. My wife started bursting into tears and had the audacity to ask me at that again? Why can't you just get over it? I don't know why I thought she would have listened now. I had enough at that point and told her we're getting a divorce. Walked away and started to pack my suitcase as she tried her hardest to stop me. Pulling my shirt, hitting me, throwing things, going from calling me names to begging me to stay. I walked out and am now staying at a hotel while her and her family blow up my phone. I don't know what to do. Update 3. Some of you mentioned it was a setup or some sort of test from the start. This could be a possibility as my wife never wakes up that easily after taking sleeping pills and it's likely she brushed it off due to the guilt. Still though, it was uncalled for and her mentioning divorce over a rape accusation she knew was fake just makes it worse. It's been close to 5 months since my last post. Needless to say, I am officially divorced. My ex-wife was cooperative, but of course there was reasons as to why she was so cooperative. To not tarnish what's left of her reputation. Definitely could not afford to make it any longer than it was, and everything was in my name anyways. Quite a few of you had conspiracy theories on what really was going on underneath the surface. I'm still unsure of whether the whole incident was premeditated. That's something she refuses to admit to. But I did confirm, however, that my wife was involved in God knows how many year-long affair with a married man. Turns out our relationship was never real nor genuine to her. I was just a means to leech off of while she satisfied her own desires. I'm not too sure if Amy was involved in this affair, but I know she's known, and this whole incident was probably to file a case against me and take my money. I don't know at this point, and quite frankly I don't want to know. I'm broken, and even writing this post, this is all I have because my mind is just blanking out. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments and I'd be happy to answer. Thank you all for your love and support. At my current state, with all the court proceedings and emotional burnout from the divorce and events ensued leading up to it, I don't plan on taking action for the time being.